You know, Jay, I've been in real estate 15 years. One of the things that I love when I meet somebody like yourself is just to learn about your beginnings. How did you get started? How did you get started in this business? What was your first attraction?
You know, Christopher, my first attraction was buying a house.
Okay.
When I was 18.
What was the cost of your first house?
$27,000.
Oh my God. Did you think, could you even have imagined, or maybe you could have, when you were buying this first house, $27,000, that you would now be working in a stratosphere where you are working on the homes that are $100 million?
You don't think that way. I mean, you know that. Wherever
Sure.
you're at, you're at.
And where do you think that drive comes from? Did you come from money, or did you earn everything you
No. Well, my father was an entrepreneur.
Okay.
He owned a couple of restaurants, and but we didn't have money.
Okay.
You know.
So what brought you to Los Angeles?
You know, Los Angeles. I came out here to
more
visit.
specific.
I just came out here to visit and felt more at home the first week here than I ever felt in my 25 years in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Love Philly.
Okay.
But LA is like the DNA of Los Angeles is experimental and out of the box and exciting, and yes, we know.
Right.
The real estate here is just fabulous.
Well, you have a very casual way about you, which is very much LA. There's this sort of, you put LA and New York next to each other, or, kind of big cities, and like New York is go, 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 and LA is go, 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 but in a much more sort of like easygoing, casual sort of way. Everybody's still striving, but do you feel that?
It's amazing. I mean, LA appears to be casual, but it's the harder working city even of the two.
What do you think it takes, the type of person who's going to develop luxury residential versus somebody else who's going to maybe do apartment buildings or an office space or anything? What do you think the difference is in terms of the type of person, or maybe there isn't a difference?
I don't know if there's a difference in the type of person, but I think there probably is. Because when you are developing apartment or office, it's much more analytical. I mean, you're looking at the demographic of who's going to fill that space. Then you're looking at what's the price per square foot I need to build this at. And it's very much analytical, cost-driven decisions. The finishes, you want to get the best finish you can get for that price.
Right.
The best finish you can get for that size. But the size and the price and the demographic is driving that project.
Right.
When you do luxury residential, it's really the opposite. You're creating an experience for the buyer. So it's not a 10,000 square foot house that you're building.
Right.
It's 10,000 square feet of experience.
Right.
So how can I...
That's a great way to describe it.
Yeah, how can I inspire this buyer? Because the buyer of this size home, this priced home, they don't need to spend the kind of money they're spending.
Sure.
So it's very different.
There's a lot of risks with what you're doing, and in this space, in the high-end development, or, and just residential in general. And a lot of people really lost their shirts when the economy turned. Have you ever lost money?
I have. I spent the first 20 years of my life having never lost a penny in a piece of real estate.
I thought you were going to say, I spent the first 20 years losing money.
I was so proud of that. I should say I never lost a penny, and I never did.
Right.
But then, the downturn happened. And
the recent one.
The 08.
Okay. Now, you owned a brokerage, Remax. When did you sell that?
In 2010.
Was that a scary time?
I choose not to talk about it.
Fair enough, I understand.
Rough.
Yes, got it.
It was rough. We had 500 agents and nobody was making sales.
And you're the leader of that. What were you saying to your agents? What was your feeling,
During that time, you just tried to convey optimism and, tough, keep the chin up, because we literally had, and you may remember this, we had agents who went a year without making a sale.
Sure.
And they still had to pay for their car, pay for their house, pay for their kids, and they had no income.
What did you take away from that time? What do you take away from that time in terms of your decision making now and moving into the future?
To know that it can happen, just to know that that's possible. Because I think before that, you didn't realize that it could go that quickly and always have a reserve. You have to have a reserve.
Right. Yeah. So what would you say to somebody who is wanting to get started in real estate? Maybe they want to start developing, and somebody may be watching this right now. What would be your advice to them?
I would say to make sure it's something you really want to do and you love to do, because like any business, it looks a lot easier and more fun from the outside.
Okay.
So for me, I really love this. I love buying them. I love dealing with the escrow part. I love dealing with the rehab. I love the whole process. But I knew that about myself because I dabbled in it. So if you have an attraction towards it, then I would say go out there and find an easy fixer. If you have never done it before, just go buy a light fixer, paint, carpet, landscape. That is where you should start.
What do you think the investor looks for in you as the developer?
The number one thing an investor looks for is security of his investment. They want to feel comfortable because they don't want to lose money. Investors, as much as they want to make money, the number one thing
they don't want to lose money.
So at the end of the day, if they invested in a project 2 years later and they didn't make a penny, they're not happy,
but they didn't lose money.
But they're not upset. So capital preservation is my number one concern and expression to an investor, that they're safe.
So when you're looking at a property, your baseline when you're underwriting it is, can we lose money?
Absolutely.
And most of that you can analyze. And then there's the bigger picture, which is out of all our control. Something happens, Mother Nature, major thing globally.
There lies the risk.
We don't know.
That should be the only risk.
When you're doing this, because there's so much risk involved, is there anything that keeps you up at night?
People say that often. The bigger risk is the lower priced homes. Because the margin's so much smaller and there's so many more people that can play there. There's not a lot of buyers at the high end. There's not a lot of developers at the high end. So it's really a lot less risky because there's bigger margin. And if you get it right, there's a lot less competition.
That's interesting. I didn't expect that response, that basically you feel there's less risk at this level. One of the things that I love about developing and working with developers is the beginning process, the brainstorming, coming up with the ideas. And then after all of that, you have this end product, which you can really enjoy, something tangible. What do you enjoy? What's your favorite part about developing?
But my most exciting part really is buying the project. I love buying the deal. Making the deal. My favorite part.
All right. Would you say you're a deal junkie?
No. No, I really wouldn't. I'd say that I know it's part of the process, and I would love to be a deal junkie. Except, unfortunately for deal junkies, that's part of the reason they have that title. They want to do the deal so much that they'll do deals they shouldn't be doing, and we see that. When I was a very young agent, I started buying and selling, and my broker at the time was also pretty savvy deal maker, and he said to me, I was a 22-year-old guy at the time, and he said, "Listen, Jay," I was probably a deal junkie at the time. He said, "Listen, Jay, it's very easy to buy a deal. It's a lot harder to sell it and get back out. So be careful what you get into." And that, that really stayed with me because you get this appetite to just buy. It's a good deal. The market will turn. You have all these visions of how great things are going to be. And, not so great after you own it.
When would you say, and you could look in the mirror and say, Jay, I succeeded. I've done it. I've made it. When did you say that?
Right now.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So you're feeling good.
I feel great. I feel like I've been blessed.
You have been blessed.
Yeah, to be able to do what I'm doing.
You are lucky. If you could go back to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself?
Relax. Enjoy the ride.
All right.
Because, I've had so much success, but so much of my success came because my drive and my edge and my push. And, when you're in that zone, it's hard to have fun because you're so busy, on the kill and so busy on the goal.
So how could you have been relaxed at that time?
I don't know. That's the whole question. You don't know. Is it in your makeup to chill? To enjoy the ride as much? Because I had some really big success, some great success.
Right.
And I did have fun, but I was always, driven so hard.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I've only known you, for a few years, but you're so chill, you're so relaxed. While you're so driven and you're trying to achieve that success, how do you find the balance of being relaxed? That's a question.
No, it's a great one. But it's so funny, when you have children or you see young people, you can say whatever you want to them. They don't hear you because they're zoned wherever they're at. So I wouldn't have listened to myself.
What do you think makes you good at what you do?
I think I want the product to be great. It's always been the case.
Do you think that ego can get in the way of a developer?
I think ego can get in the way of everything. And I think sometimes if a developer is so sure on his vision that he's not taking advice, that can be dangerous.
Right. In terms of just design, let's talk about that for a second. What do you think the cycle is of design?
It's different segments of it. Some of it's 2 years, some of it's 5 years, 10 years. But architecture, great architecture, is forever.
Okay.
So if it is architecturally correct, architecturally the integrity's there, that never goes out of style.
Right. Is there anything you feel I should have asked you today?
What are we building now?
What are you building?
Everything we do is a unique project, a unique home, a unique experience where if we build it, you will not see anything really like it again. That's what we're doing.
Well, I think you have to achieve that if you're developing at this level. It has to be one of a kind. Obviously everything you're pulling from, all sorts of inspiration. That's the beauty of Los Angeles. Los Angeles is such a sort of smorgasbord, a melting pot of all different inspirations from all over the world. I think that's what I love about it.
No, I know. It's in the DNA of the city. I think what's happening is residential is now getting more of the creative, artistic, architectural appeal and approach. I think that's where it's going. I think it's going more flair.
But don't you think there's a but to that? And the but is that you make something so specific that you really just need that one buyer, and maybe you don't have that buyer. I think that might certainly, that's what I've learned from developers, is that they're trying to be a little bit more neutral, and so there isn't as much risk taking with the design. Because I appreciate so much wonderful architecture that is so unique, truly one of a kind. You could get yourself in trouble, don't you think? That you do something.
You're hitting the nail right on the head, because you're a very knowledgeable guy. You're big in this space. That's exactly what we deal with. And if you get too specific and too wild and flary, you've just reduced your buyer pool down to a very small, and that could be. So what we're out to achieve with our design is to create space that appeals to a large group of people, but do it in a creative way.
Right. It's a fine balance. It is such. I really hope that the buyers that do come into this town and that are here and see what you do and see what some of the other developers are doing can really appreciate actually how challenging it is to walk that fine line of creating new, but not also doing something that's just so out of the box that it's just not going to speak to anyone. That is such a challenge and an art to be able to do that. Thanks so much for today, Jay, and spending time with me and giving me a chance to learn more from you, which has been amazing. I really appreciate your career and what you've done and what you're doing.
Thank you. I'm enjoying it and love working with you. Look forward to doing a lot of stuff together.
Sounds great. Thanks so much.